The silver bell above the cafe door let out a soft chime as the wind swept in behind the man. Rain clung to his overcoat like regret, each droplet trailing from his hair as if the past were trying to pull him back. Nathan Morgan stood still, soaked and silent, his son beside him already choosing a booth near the window. But Nathan wasn't moving. His eyes had locked onto the waitress. She smiled gently, a tired grace in her step as she approached with menus. And then, he saw it. The collar of her uniform shifted slightly as she leaned forward to place the napkins down, revealing a small, crescent-shaped birthmark just below her collarbone. The same one Catherine had. The same mark he kissed the morning she disappeared 10 years ago. His knees nearly buckled. "Dad," Caleb's voice was a whisper, filled with awe and something close to fear. "She has Mom's birthmark." Nathan's world tilted. The laminated menu slid from his fingers. And across the cafe, Grace, who had no idea who she really was, stared back at him, her hand unconsciously rising to touch the mark that had just shattered everything. The clink of porcelain and the murmur of distant conversations faded into a strange, ringing silence inside the Lighthouse Cafe. Nathan Morgan, towering and composed in his tailored gray coat, stood frozen mid-step. His right hand still gripped the edge of the booth as if letting go would collapse the world beneath him. Opposite him, 16-year-old Caleb sat already scanning the menu, unaware of the ghost his father had just seen. She moved like memory. The waitress, her auburn hair pulled back into a loose knot, wore the kind of tired eyes that had seen too many sunrises through the haze of black coffee and small-town expectations. She was maybe in her 30s. Kind. Efficient. Ordinary. Except for one thing, one impossible thing. That mark. It wasn't just a coincidence. It couldn't be. The birthmark had the same curved shape, like a crescent moon cut from skin and stitched back on with light. He remembered tracing it with his fingers on Sunday mornings when their son was still sleeping. Remembered how it looked when the sun caught her collarbone while she read in the garden. He hadn't spoken her name aloud in years. Catherine. His wife. Missing. Presumed dead. A decade of cold case files and empty birthdays and sleeping in half a bed. And now this waitress in Port Haven had the exact same mark. The exact same air. "Sir." Her voice was soft. Musical. It cracked him. Nathan's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His chest clenched. The menu slipped from his hand. "You all right?" she asked again, her eyes narrowing in concern. He nodded too quickly. "Yes. Sorry. Just, long day." She gave a small, polite smile, the kind that said she was used to tired men and awkward silences. But then her hand drifted, unconsciously, to her collarbone. To the mark. Caleb looked up. "Dad." Nathan sat down hard, his breath shallow, heart pounding. "Grace," her name tag read, Grace Harrison. She turned away to fetch water. The second she disappeared behind the counter, Nathan leaned in. "Did you see that?" His voice barely held steady. Caleb blinked. "The waitress?" "The mark. On her collarbone." There was a pause. Caleb's brow furrowed. "Yeah, it's like Mom's. From the photo on your desk." Nathan stared past his son, eyes searching for the woman behind the counter. She was chatting with an older woman near the register, laughing at something that didn't reach her eyes. "She looks like her too," Caleb added, voice soft. "Older. Thinner maybe. But it's her face." Nathan's throat tightened. "It can't be. That's impossible." But doubt had already surrendered to recognition. Behind the counter, Grace felt the burn of eyes on her back. The tall man. The boy. There was something strange in the way they looked at her, like they'd just seen a ghost. She brushed her fingertips across her birthmark again, the way she always did when nerves crept in. She didn't know why it comforted her. She didn't even know how she got it. Just that when Martha found her on the side of that coastal road 10 years ago, she was covered in blood and had no name, no past. Just the clothes on her back, a silver pen with strange initials, and a life growing inside her. That life was now a bright-eyed little girl named Emma, 9 years old and already smarter than most adults. And this cafe, this town, was the only life Grace had ever known since that night. But now the man in the booth wouldn't stop looking at her. His stare wasn't creepy. It was broken. Wounded. Intimate. Like he knew her. Like he needed to. Martha, the cafe owner and Grace's silent guardian, noticed. She always noticed. She leaned in. "You all right?" Grace nodded. "That man, he looked like he knew me." Martha followed her gaze, narrowing her eyes at the booth. "Big city type. Watch yourself. Folks like that bring trouble." But something inside Grace stirred. A flicker of something ancient. A sensation beneath the skin. At the booth, Nathan's mind raced. He reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet. Slid open the picture compartment. Caleb leaned over. The photo of Catherine, taken in the last summer before she vanished, smiled up at them. The birthmark was there. Visible. Perfect. Same shape. Same spot. Caleb looked shaken. What if it's her? It's not possible. Then go ask. I can't. Why? Because if I'm wrong, I'll break all over again. They watched her move. The familiarity was haunting. The way she pushed her hair behind her ear. The way she walked with a slight limp. Catherine had twisted her ankle during a mountain hike once. Nathan's hands trembled. She died. No body. No funeral, Caleb whispered. We don't know that. The bell above the door chimed again. A girl ran in, her curls bouncing. 9 years old. She headed straight to Grace and hugged her around the waist. Grace leaned down, kissing the girl's forehead. Nathan's heart stopped. Is that? Caleb couldn't finish. She looked just like Catherine. Grace knelt, brushing a strand of hair behind the girl's ear. Emma, she said warmly. Did you finish your math puzzle? I solved it, the girl beamed. Genius, Grace smiled. Just like always. Nathan stared, unable to breathe. Grace's daughter. Born 9 years ago. Catherine disappeared 10 years ago. Nathan's face went pale. If that's her, he whispered, barely able to say the words. Then Emma is mine too. Caleb sat back, stunned. She's my sister. Nathan stood abruptly, knocking over his water glass. The crash made Grace turn. For a long second, their eyes locked again. And she smiled. Let me help with that, she said kindly. As she grabbed a towel and walked over, Nathan couldn't move. His heart raced. He wanted to grab her shoulders and scream, "Do you know who I am?" But he didn't. He waited. He watched her kneel beside the table. And then he whispered, trembling, "Do you believe in impossible things?" Grace paused. Looked up. Her smile faltered. Sometimes. I do. She stood, towel in hand, the light catching the crescent mark on her skin. Nathan's voice was hoarse. Your name, is it really Grace? She froze. Something flickered in her eyes. A storm behind a calm sea. It's the only one I've ever had. But even as she said it, something in her shifted. She touched her collarbone again. And for the first time in a decade, Nathan let himself hope. 10 years earlier, the Pacific wind howled like a wounded beast, slamming salt and silence against the windows of Nathan Morgan's lakeside estate. His hands were red from gripping the steering wheel too long, knuckles locked in place. The house was too quiet. No laughter, no music, no clinking of Catherine's glass bracelet as she padded through the kitchen humming, Claire de Lune. She was gone. Not gone out. Not running late. Not taking space. Gone. The front door had been ajar when he came home, half swinging in the wind. The lights were on, her favorite teacup still half full on the counter. Her slippers neatly aligned by the rug. But no note. No sign of struggle. Just absence. The police found her car a day later on a winding coastal road 2 hours from Seattle, resting sideways in a ditch with blood on the driver's door. No wallet. No ID. Just a mangled bouquet of peonies in the back seat, his anniversary gift the day before. Nathan had driven that road 100 times after. Scouring cliffs. Questioning fishermen. Hiring private investigators. Offering rewards. Searching, always searching, even as the trail went cold. Catherine Morgan, wife of one of Seattle's most powerful CEOs, vanished without a trace on May 12. No goodbye. No explanation. Just a missing wife and a 6-year-old boy who asked the same question every night for months. Did she forget us? Nathan never answered. Because sometimes forgetting is worse than leaving. 2 years after the disappearance, life had become a clockwork wound too tight. Nathan buried himself in work, mergers, construction projects, city contracts. He built towers tall enough to block out the sun, but none tall enough to see the past. Victor Reynolds, his closest friend and business partner, had been the first to suggest a memorial. "You need closure," Victor had said smoothly over scotch, his voice too calm. "For Caleb's sake. Let the press cover a quiet ceremony. Frame it with dignity. People forget. Let them." But Nathan didn't want people to forget. He didn't want to forget. Catherine's voice was still in the walls of their home. Her perfume still lingered in her closet. Her ring, still on his nightstand. "I'll declare her dead when I feel it," he said. "And I don't." Victor had gone quiet then, eyes too calculating. "Suit yourself," he murmured. "But the board is getting impatient. This company can't live in limbo forever." Nathan wanted to believe that was all it was, business tension. But something about Victor had shifted since Catherine's disappearance. A flicker of something else behind his eyes. Meanwhile, in Port Haven, a woman with no past lay unconscious on the side of a rural highway. Her belly round with new life. Blood at her temple. A silver pen clutched tightly in one hand, engraved with the initials CM. Martha Sullivan, the Lighthouse Café's owner, found her by accident. She'd taken the long route home that night, her headlights cutting through the fog. She pulled over when she thought she saw movement in the grass. The woman was breathing. Barely. Her eyes fluttered open, then closed again. Her first words, whispered like a forgotten lullaby. "Where am I?" They told her her name was Grace. It was the name they'd given her at the hospital. Grace Doe. Unidentified. No records. No memory. "You're lucky to be alive," the doctor had said. Head trauma. Retrograde amnesia. It may come back, or it may not. And just like that, Grace Harrison was born. She remembered nothing before the accident. Nothing before the pain. The baby inside her was her only anchor, the only proof she'd had a life before the crash. "I must have done something awful," she told Martha once, months later, holding newborn Emma close to her chest. "To deserve forgetting everything." "No," Martha said. "Sometimes forgetting is the only mercy we get." Martha had taken her in. Given her a room above the cafe. A job. A life. Grace learned to carry trays and smile through exhaustion. She raised Emma between coffee shifts and quiet evenings staring out at the sea, wondering who she'd once been. Sometimes, when she closed her eyes, images flickered. A staircase. A piano. A boy's laughter. The sound of glass breaking. But they were only flashes, gone before she could hold on. She never questioned why she touched her birthmark when she was scared. Or why the sound of rain made her chest ache. Or why she cried the first time Emma called her mom. Somewhere, buried deep in the fog of her mind, Catherine Morgan still lived. Back in Seattle, Nathan found a silver pen's twin. He'd kept it in a velvet box, her graduation gift from law school. Engraved with the same looping CM, the pen she never left the house without. It had been missing for years. He stared at it now, gripped in his hand during one of his long nights alone. The engraving had worn slightly, but the shape was unmistakable. He remembered Catherine holding it in court, signing legal briefs. Writing letters. Doodling little constellations when she was nervous. And now, with Grace's name tag burned into his memory, he felt the shape of that pen again. In her hands. Could it be? The question kept him awake for years. Until the Lighthouse Café. Until a waitress touched her collarbone the way only Catherine used to. Until a girl with her eyes walked into the room. In Port Haven, Emma had always known her mother was special. She knew other moms had baby pictures and grandparents and stories about family history. But her mom had a box under the bed, locked tight, with only two things inside, the silver pen and a faded newspaper clipping with the edges torn off. One night, Emma snuck it out. The article's heading was gone, but the photograph wasn't. A woman with auburn hair, holding a boy near a fountain. They were laughing. There was something radiant in her smile. A softness in her eyes. Emma traced the woman's face with her finger. Then glanced at the mirror. It was her mother's face. And beside her, the boy's eyes, looked like hers. "Mom?" she asked gently, showing the photo. "Who's this?" Grace stared at it for a long time. Then said quietly, "I don't know." But her hands were trembling. And her eyes were full of something Emma had never seen before. Recognition. Now, back in the present, Nathan sat in his car outside the cafe, the photo of Catherine on the passenger seat, his heart pounding in his chest like a man standing at the edge of resurrection. 10 years. 10 years of doubt and grief and ghosts. And suddenly, a waitress with his wife's face. A girl who looked like his daughter. A mark on her collarbone that no one else could possibly have. And in his rearview mirror, a black SUV slowly rolled to a stop behind him. Victor Reynolds. Nathan's hands curled into fists. The past wasn't just knocking. It was kicking the door off its hinges. The bell above the cafe door gave a sharp chime, cutting through the lull of clinking cutlery and murmured conversation. Nathan Morgan stepped inside the Lighthouse Café, the wind trailing behind him like a warning. His tailored coat was still damp from the sea air, but his eyes were already scanning, hunting. She was there. Grace. Wearing a plain navy apron, her auburn hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. She laughed softly at something a customer said, easy, warm, human. But it hit Nathan like glass. That laugh. That curve of her mouth. He sat down with Caleb at the corner booth. The photo in his inside pocket felt like it weighed 10 pounds. He didn't touch it. Not yet. Grace turned. Their eyes met. She froze. It lasted barely a second. Just a flicker. But in that space, the world cracked. She approached the table, menus in hand. "Welcome to the Lighthouse Café," she said, voice steady but clipped. "Can I get you started with anything to drink?" Caleb nudged his father under the table, whispering, "It's her, Dad." "It's Mom." Nathan's voice was a murmur. "Water for now. We'll need a minute." Grace nodded. "Of course." She turned, but as she did, the collar of her shirt shifted slightly. Nathan saw it. The crescent. That exact, crescent-shaped birthmark just below her collarbone. He stared, stunned. Then fumbled with the photo in his pocket. Pulled it halfway out. His hands were shaking. Caleb's voice was tight. "Are you okay?" "No," Nathan said. "I think I'm looking at a ghost who doesn't know she died." In the kitchen, Grace leaned against the stainless steel counter, gripping the edge like it was the only thing keeping her standing. Martha saw her and immediately knew something was wrong. "Who is he?" Grace whispered. Martha didn't answer. "I know that man," Grace said again, her voice cracking. "I don't know how, but I do. When he looked at me, it was like something inside me fell." Martha moved closer. "Grace, sometimes people from the past show up just to confuse what little piece we've built." Grace shook her head. "It's not confusion. It's recognition. And the boy with him, he looks like Emma. His eyes." "Stop," Martha said sharply, more forcefully than ever. "You have Emma. You have a life now. Whoever they are, whatever they were, don't let them take it from you." Grace turned to her slowly. "What aren't you telling me?" Meanwhile, in Seattle, Ryan Spencer, ex-detective, now private investigator, spread a stack of documents across his desk. Catherine Morgan. Disappeared without a trace. Declared dead. Case closed. Except now, she might be alive. Ryan had spent months chasing whispers for Nathan, tracking financial records, travel logs, even old CCTV from a gas station outside Port Haven the night Catherine vanished. The tech team had enhanced it enough to spot a black SUV trailing a woman's car. And it wasn't Nathan's SUV. It was Victor Reynolds's. The timestamp, May 12, 10:46 p.m. Exactly 13 minutes after Catherine's last known call. The police had written it off. But Ryan knew patterns. He knew fear. And he knew when someone was hiding something. He picked up his phone. "Nathan. I have something. You need to hear this, now." Back in Port Haven, Grace walked into the cafe's break room and unlocked the small wooden box she kept hidden in her locker. Inside, a silver pen. A folded photo she never dared show Emma. A name written on the back, Catherine Morgan. She stared at the handwriting. Sometimes she saw it in her dreams. Writing numbers. Signing documents. Now, she touched the photo. Her fingers trembled. She looked like the woman in it. No. Not looked like. Was. Her heart pounded. She grabbed her coat. Nathan and Caleb were already outside, pacing. Nathan's phone buzzed. Ryan's voice was sharp. Victor was following her. The night she disappeared. "I have time-stamped video proof." Nathan stopped cold. "You're sure?" "I've been digging for months." Catherine had flagged accounts, illegal offshore transfers linked to Victor. She was planning to expose him. The day she vanished, she had a meeting set with you. But she never showed. Now I know why. Nathan's world tilted. He tried to kill her. Looks like it. But she didn't die, Nathan. She survived. A shadow moved in the doorway. Grace stood there. Not with a waitress's composure. But with a storm behind her eyes. "I need to ask you something," she said. Nathan faced her. Slowly. His breath caught. She held up the silver pen. "Do you recognize this?" Nathan's knees nearly buckled. "That's yours. I gave it to Catherine. You wrote everything with it. Even your vows." Grace blinked. I found it in my pocket the night they pulled me from the road. I didn't know what it meant." She reached up and touched her birthmark. Nathan stepped forward. "Your name isn't Grace." His voice was gentle. "It's Catherine. Her lip trembled. I don't remember being her. But I remember a boy's voice. Calling me Mom. Anne. I remember pain. Screaming. Headlights chasing me. Caleb stepped beside Nathan. It was me. I'm the boy. Grace's eyes filled. She dropped the pen. Caleb caught it. Emma emerged from behind her mother, staring at the scene with wide, frightened eyes. Mama, what's going on? Nathan's gaze shifted. The girl. His daughter. He knew it before he asked. And Emma looked up at him, confusion on her face. Why do you look like me? Grace turned to her. Her voice breaking. Because, maybe he's your father. The air snapped like thunder. Martha stormed out of the cafe, eyes blazing. Enough. You've stirred up enough ghosts, Mr. Morgan. She has a life now. A child. You don't get to march back in and claim it all. I didn't come to take anything, Nathan said. I came for the truth. And now I have it. Martha's glare hardened. You're not the only one with truths to tell. And with that, she turned to Grace, Catherine, and whispered, you weren't supposed to remember. Grace stared at her. What did you do? Martha didn't answer. But a chill crept down everyone's spine. Because the real betrayal wasn't just in forgetting. It was in who made sure she did. The moonlight spilled across the cafe floor like a confession no one dared speak. Outside, the waves crashed against the distant shore, echoing the storm that now raged in every heart inside the Lighthouse Cafe. Grace, Catherine, stood still, her arms protectively around Emma, her eyes locked on Martha's, as if she could peel back 10 years of kindness and lies in a single glance. What do you mean I wasn't supposed to remember? Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. Martha exhaled slowly, her shoulders sagging under the weight of a decade of secrets. I found you that night, she began. Bleeding. Broken. Pregnant. Your car smashed at the base of that coastal cliff. And I knew who you were. I knew. Catherine Morgan, the woman who once smiled in the photos on your husband's desk. The woman the news said was missing. Nathan froze. Caleb's breath hitched. You knew, Grace whispered. I worked in your house, Martha said, tears building in her eyes. I cleaned your floors. I knew your laugh. I saw your love for that boy and your quiet distance from that man, Victor. I saw him whispering things to your husband behind closed doors, saw the tension. And the day he fired me, I overheard him threatening you. I didn't say anything. I thought it was just anger, but then your car was found, and you weren't in it. So you, what? You stole me. Grace said, shaking. I saved you, Martha said, pleading now. The hospital would have entered your name into a system. He would have found you. He would have finished what he started. And my family? Grace asked. My son. My husband. They thought I was dead. You let them believe it. Martha turned to Nathan, guilt etched deep into her face. I thought I was protecting her. I thought you might be involved. You were his partner. You didn't stop him. Nathan's face went pale. I didn't know what Catherine knew, he said softly. She didn't tell me everything. I didn't realize how deep Victor's lies ran. I was wrong, Martha admitted. I see that now. Grace swallowed hard, her voice no longer trembling, just tired. You gave me a life. You raised my daughter with me. But you also buried the truth. And now I'm left wondering, who I would have been if you'd just told me. Silence fell. Then Emma, small and steady, stepped forward. Mom, she said. Are you mad at Martha? Grace knelt to face her. I don't know what I am, sweetie. But I'm not mad at you. I never could be. Emma looked at Nathan. And him? Is he really? Nathan's voice was tender, fragile. If what we think is true, then yes. I'm your dad. I didn't know about you, Emma. But I would have loved you from the moment I knew. Emma blinked. You already do. I can tell. Caleb stepped beside her, unsure, nervous. You like math? He asked quietly. Emma brightened. I'm the best at it. He grinned. Challenge accepted, little sister. The word hung in the air. Sister. For a moment, everything fragile found footing. Later that night, Grace sat outside on the back porch of Martha's cottage, staring into the dark sea. Nathan joined her silently, a blanket folded in his arms. He draped it over her shoulders without a word. I keep asking myself, she murmured, why I survived. Why I forgot everything. Why I ended up here. Maybe because you weren't supposed to disappear, Nathan replied. Maybe you were meant to find your way back, with Emma. With us. She turned to him. You say that like we can just pick up where we left off. No, he said quietly. I don't want that. I want to start again. As whoever we are now. Grace hesitated, then asked the question that had haunted her the most. Why didn't you look for me? Nathan looked down at his hands. I did. I hired detectives. I searched. But the trail went cold. When they found your car with blood on the door, they said no one could survive that fall. His voice cracked. I mourned you every year. Every single year. She reached out, her fingers brushing the ring still on his left hand. You still wear it? I never took it off, he whispered. Her eyes filled. I'm not her. Not fully. I still feel like Grace. Then let me love both, he said. The woman I lost, and the one I found again. A week later, in Seattle, Victor Reynolds was arrested at a private airstrip trying to flee the country. Ryan Spencer had presented a case so airtight the judge denied bail. Catherine's old journal, the surveillance video, Martha's testimony, all of it pointed to a calculated attempt to erase a woman to protect a fraud. The media exploded. But inside the Morgan home, everything remained quiet. Healing. Tentative. Emma sat curled on the couch with a math book. Caleb beside her, teaching her chess openings. Nathan returned from a board meeting early. He kissed the top of Emma's head, then looked up to see Grace standing by the window. She held a legal envelope. My DNA test came back, she said. He stepped toward her. And? It's official, she said, smiling. I'm Catherine Morgan. He reached for her hand. You always were. I'm also Grace Harrison. I want to keep both names, she said. Catherine Grace. 2 lives, 1 story. I love that, Nathan said. I'm not moving back in yet, she added. But I'd like to try. You, me, Caleb, Emma. A new family. Built slowly. Honestly. Nathan nodded. One day at a time. Grace looked out the window, where the sun was beginning to set, washing the sky in gold. I may never remember everything, she whispered. But you don't have to, he replied. You're here. That's enough. And as the light faded into dusk, for shadows sat down to dinner for the first time as a family, not one rebuilt from memory, but one reborn from truth. Some stories begin at the end. But the best ones start again.